our screens up?
Shabbat Shalom. Shema Yisrael. Yahweh Eloheinu Yahweh Akkad. Wherehavata et Yahweh Eloheka. Uv kol lavavka, uv kol nefeshka, uv kol meodika. Wherehayu hadevarim ele eshe anoki mitzoveka. Hayom all lavavka. That is to say, hear Israel. Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you are to love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all of your heart, all of your strength, and all of your resources. These words that I'm ordering you today shall be on your heart. We always bless our King before we pray. We say, Barku et Yahweh, Barku et Yahweh hamevarak, Baruch atah Yahweh hamevarak le'elam vayet, Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech ha'alam, Asher b'kar b'nu makol hamayim v'natan lanu ha'torah, Baruch atah Yahweh notan ha'torah. That is to say, blessed be Yahweh, blessed be Yahweh the blessed one. Blessed are you, Yahweh the blessed one, for all eternity. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who selected us from all the peoples and gave us your Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah, to our Master, our Deliverer, our Savior, our King, our Provider, and our Sustainer, to the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Israel. Master, we come today to bless your name. This is your Sabbath day, O Master. You said that you made the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day you rested, and we shall also rest. And it shall be a sign between me and you and us that we are in a covenant contract with you. So we come out today, Master, as a collective people, your people, Israel. For in your words you said, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of Yahweh, and in his law do he meditates day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. But the ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff that the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For you knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. So we thank you, Master, as you have brought us out together, and you have taken us out of idolatry, and you have showed us your truth, Master, so we meet on your set-apart day. And we ask, Master, that the words of our mouths and the meditation of our heart would be acceptable in thy sight. Master, we meet as a collective group, although you have brought us out here individually, O King. We thank you for all things. We thank you for life, health, and strength, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Master, we thank you that you have brought us out of idolatry, and you have showed us your truth, Master, and you keep us, and you have brought us out once again. You have kept our children all week long, Master, as they traverse throughout the highways and byways, O King, and you have brought them to us safely, and we thank you for that. We thank you for the mercies that you deliver to us daily. We thank you for the grace, Master. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your kindness, Master, that you have shown upon us. Master, we ask that you will look upon your people, Israel, as a collective group. O King, we just give thanks to your name, and we ask that our praises of you today will go up as a sweet smelling savor, Master, and that we will be pleasing to you. Speak kind words towards us, O King. Speak not evil towards us, Master, for your word shall not go out empty, and it shall not return to you void, but it shall accomplish all that you send it out to do. So when you think about us, Master, as individuals and as a collective people at First Tabernacle, Master, that it will bring a smile to thy heart. Master, that it would bring joy and cheer to you, Master. And we ask that you will continue to keep us until we meet here again. This is our prayer.
Let us Let us read from Psalms 121. We're going to read down through probably 25. Let us all read together. A song of ascents. If I raise my eyes to the hills, from where will my help come? My help comes from Yahweh, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. Your guardian is not asleep. No, the guardian of Israel never slumbers nor sleeps. Yahweh is your guardian. At your right hand, Yahweh provides you with shade. The sun can't strike you during the day, or even the moon at night. Yahweh will guard you against all harm. He will guard your life. Ah. Let's read that one again. Yahweh will guard you against all harm. He will guard your life. Yahweh will guard your coming and going from now on and forever. I mean, a song of ascents by David. I was glad when they said to me, the house of Yahweh, let's go. Our feet were already standing at your gates, Jerusalem. Jerusalem built as a city fostering friendship and unity. The tribes have gone up there, the tribes of Yahweh, as a witness to Israel, to give thanks to the name of Yahweh. For there the thrones of justice were set up, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for shalom of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. May shalom be within your ramparts, prosperity in your palaces. For the sake of my family and friends, I say, shalom be within you. For the sake of the house of Yahweh RL, I will seek your well-being. A song of ascents. I raise my eyes to you, whose throne is in heaven. As a servant looks to the hand of his master, or a slave girl to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes turn to Yahweh RL until he has mercy on us. Have mercy on us, Yahweh, have mercy. For we have had our fill of contempt, more than our fill of scorn from the complacent and contempt from the arrogant. A song of ascents by David. If Yahweh hadn't been for us, let Israel repeat. If Yahweh had not been for us, when people rose to attack us then, when their anger blazed against us, they would have swallowed us alive. Then the water would have engulfed us, the torrent would have swept us over. Yes, the raging water would have swept right over us. Blessed be Yahweh, who did not leave us to the prey of their teeth. We escaped like a bird from the hunter's trap. The trap is broken, and we have escaped. Our help is in the name of Yahweh, the maker of heaven and earth. Can we all say Amen? You may be seated. It's always good to be here in the place the Most High has given us, our place of worship and our house of study. It is good to see each and every one of you each week. Oh, I was glad. I was delighted when they said unto me, let's go into the house of the Most High El. I pray that each one of you have had a wonderful and inspiring week, and that the Most High has kept us in the hollow of his hands. He has said to us, my eyes are always up on you. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. My eyes are always up on you. It's good to know that our protector is the one who created us. But more than anything else, it's good to know that because we walk in his ways, we walk in his ways, we walk under his protection. I've had an opportunity these 2 days, well, one day yesterday and yesterday rather, to share with some people that I came in contact with and share with them the understanding of this Hebraicness that we have endorsed, have come to realize and come to know, and how good it is. How good it is. We hear him say these words. Oh, do what? Come on, chorus. Where's my choir? Where's my choir? Where's my choir? Raise your voice and say, oh, oh what? Oh what? Taste and see that Yahweh is good. And he's faithful. You can depend on him. He's not a man. Come on now. He's not a man that he should lie or change his mind. Who is like me, he asked the question. To whom do you compare me? Since the day that I set up the eternal people and I created the heavens and the earth, there was no alien God with me. Hello. Hello. You know, I'm still amazed somewhat at the fact that people who claim they love the Most High, it's amazing to me that they will just not accept the fact that he is the only one and there is no other. And when you start talking to them about that, man, I was at a function this week, and of course, you know, I introduced myself as who I was, and always the first question out their mouth. So, do you believe in Jesus? I go, well, if he's the creator, I believe in the creator. If he's the creator, I believe in the creator. And one brother said to me, he says, well, that's good. Oh, class, this gets to be too much fun. Well, let's get to it. Part 2, misused prophecies in the New Testament, part 2. We left off last week with making the comparison between Matthew chapter 2, verses 9 through 15. The punchline is that out of Egypt I call my son. And so the reference in Matthew is trying to make us believe that because this so-called demigod, that Joseph, in the process of trying to protect his wife and the child that she was carrying, had to leave the land to escape Torah punishment. Because the text says that Joseph was what? He was a righteous man. So when we hear that somebody is righteous, okay, that means that they have a thorough understanding of Torah. And they're walking in Torah. You can't be righteous outside of walking in Torah. You can be a good person, but when the Most High declares someone righteous, it's because they're walking in the teachings and the instructions that he has given to his people. So with that in mind, Joseph being a righteous man and knowing Torah and understanding, and I'm going to use the supposition if, because as I read this text over and over again in Matthew chapter 1, it raises pause to me that everybody got a human daddy and a human mother but him. But then the text says that Joseph was the husband of Mary, from whom the son Jesus came. How it reads. So if you didn't go any further, and read down, at the end it says, however, this is how the birth of Jesus came about. If you didn't go there, the text would say, well, everybody had a human mother and a human daddy. You all know this, but there may be somebody listening or pick up this hearing on YouTube. Has never heard it. So Joseph, being an honorable man, trying to protect his wife from being stoned to death, which is what the Torah would have required, since she's pregnant and she's betrothed to him, and he's saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Mary, what happened to you? I see you pregnant. I did not do it. And so, leaving all the other narrative behind of what the angel comes and tells him, he says, we got to get up out of here. So he goes off into Mitzrayim, into Egypt. So this text then goes and it says, so I call my son out of Egypt. Well, no. Well, yeah, but not him. Not him. Let's repeat. In Shemot, Exodus chapter 4, verse 22, it says, then Yahweh says, then you are to tell Paro, Yahweh says, Yisrael is my firstborn son, and I have told you to let my son go. So we know that these particular words of Yahweh were spoken to Moshe when they were in Mitzrayim, Egypt. She delivered them from. So that's where we left off. Hosea chapter 11, verse 1 says, when Israel was a child, I loved him. And out of Egypt I called my son. That's what Hosea says. Hosea says, out of Egypt I call my son. Now, Hosea preempts the New Testament. Hosea preempts the New Testament. So Hosea is talking about Israel, the father's son, whom he called up out of Mitzrayim. Therefore, the usage of the text in Matthew is erroneous and does not apply. Does not apply. Now we're going to go to Matthew chapter 2 and verse 16. Well, we'll begin at 17. I put the comparisons up there for you. In this particular writing, it says that I'm going to go to the text first, then we'll read it back. A voice was heard in Ramah. Well, let's back it up. Let's start with verse 16. Start with verse 16. Meanwhile, when Herod realized that the Magi had tricked him, he was furious and gave orders to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem, who were 2 years old or less, calculating from the time the Magi had told him. Now listen, in this way were fulfilled the words spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. Okay? So now the Magi thing, they're saying that what's happening there is spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. Okay? A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing and lamenting loudly. It was Rachel sobbing for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no longer alive. Okay? That's what they're asserting. So now, let's go to Jeremiah, chapter 3, 31, verse number 9. And see if any of this makes any sense. And we're going to start reading at verse number 9. But you know what's interesting about Jeremiah? Let's just go up a little bit to verse number 8. They will come weeping and praying as I will bring them back. He's talking about bringing Israel back out of their exile. I will lead them by streams of water on smooth paths so that they won't stumble. You say, why did you want to go back there? Because this next verse solidifies what we just said about I call my son out of Egypt. For, here's what the Most High says, for what? For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn son. Now, he said Israel was his firstborn son. But who's Ephraim? Israel. Ephraim is Israel. What did Jacob say? What did Jacob say to his son Joseph? Ephraim and Manasseh are just as much a part of me as you are. Now, let's get to this issue with this was the way. In this way were fulfilled the words spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing and lamenting loudly. It was Rachel sobbing for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no longer alive. Nations hear the word of Yahweh. Proclaim it in the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Israel is gathering him, guarding him like a shepherd his flock. For Yahweh has ransomed Yaakov, redeemed him from hands too strong for him. They will come and sing in the heights of Zion, streaming to the goodness of Yahweh, to the grain, the wine, the olive oil, and the young of the flock and the herd. They themselves will be like a well-watered garden, never to languish again. Then the virgin will dance for joy, young men and old men together, for I will turn their mourning into joy, comfort and gladden them after their sorrow. I will give the coroning their fill of rich food, and my people will be satisfied with my bounty, says Yahweh. Now, all of this is about redemption. This is all about redemption. This is what Yahweh says. This is what Yahweh says. This is what Yahweh says. A voice is heard in Ramah, lamenting the bitter weeping. It is Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children because they are no longer alive. This is what Yahweh says. Stop your weeping, dry your eyes, for your work will be rewarded, says Yahweh. They will return from the enemy's land, so there is hope for your future, says Yahweh. Your children will return to their own territory. When we read Jeremiah, we find that it is a prophecy that includes dialogue between Yahweh and Israel, and it continues with visions of the ultimate redemption and expresses the depth of Israel's relationship with Asher Yahweh. Doesn't fit, does it? It doesn't fit, Matthews. This, what's going on with JC, and this was written by the prophet Jeremiah, and it's fulfilled. It doesn't fit. Point number 4. Or I didn't give you the other points. Well, I just skipped over them. This prophecy depicts the joy of the Messianic era, which is yet to occur and has nothing to do with the Greeks JC. Jeremiah reveals why Yahweh would redeem his people from their first exile and future exiles. This exile that we're talking about here in Jeremiah was the exile that from which they were redeemed out of the Babylonian exile. Jacob buried his wife by the side of the road. And by doing so, it was very prophetic. It was a prophetic move on his part. Why? This particular text here that's written in Jeremiah says, is directed to, when Israel was carried off into Babylonian captivity, they passed by Rachel's place of burial. And she was heard weeping in the heavens for her children. So once again, the Greek text inserting this text as part of their insertion of JC is wrong. Jeremiah is telling us a prophecy about the future. So when you hear Jeremiah, from which they take this from, you can see perfectly well that it doesn't fit with what they've written in Matthew. Let me get back to Matthew. Now, when we go back to Matthew, we've got Herod, who has been tricked by the Magi who've come to see his star in the east, and then we read the pretext of all this, and he's furious and orders to kill all these baby boys. In and around Bethlehem, who were 2 years old or less, calculating the time that the Magi had told him. Then he says, in this way were fulfilled the words spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. Does Jeremiah say anything about what's going on here? Huh, class? Does Jeremiah say anything? We've read Jeremiah. He doesn't say anything about what's going on here. So what's being said here in Matthew is totally erroneous. And nothing to do with him. Let's go on to the next one. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 3 and verse 3. Let me get it here. But let's read the whole thing. We'll get down to it. It was during those days that Yochanan the Immerser arrived in the desert of Yehuda and began proclaiming the message, turn from your sins to Yah, for the kingdom of heaven is near. This is the man Yeshayahu was talking about when he said, the voice of someone crying out in the desert, prepare a way for Yahweh, make straight paths for him. Now let's deduce. Point number one, question. What man? What man? Jesus? I don't think so. The Greeks have inserted this text from Yeshayahu, from Isaiah chapter 40, verse number 3. So let's go to Isaiah 40 and verse number 3. And let's see. But we'll start reading in verse number 1. Comfort and keep comforting my people, says Yahweh. Okay? Comfort and keep comforting my people emphasizes the degree of the future redemption of Israel. The capital city, which happens to be Jerusalem, has undergone siege after siege due to the wickedness of the people. Daniel chapter 10 where Koresh or King Cyrus, the Yahweh's anointed, served to rebuild the temple. So now he's talking about some comforting of his people and some returning of his people back to their land. Tell Jerusalem. In these chapters, speaking about Jerusalem, Jerusalem is a reference to the entire nation of Hebrew Israel. Yeshayahu is commanded to comfort the people as a result of their long exile out of the land. So, tell Jerusalem to take heart, proclaim to her that she has completed her time of service, that her guilt has been paid off, that she has received at the hand of Yahweh double for all of her sins. Now, why is it that he uses a feminine language to describe Jerusalem? Because the people of Israel always went up to Jerusalem and resided in Jerusalem, and that's where all of the activity happens. That's where Torah is presented, and that's where the Most High resides. But they sinned in that city. Okay? And when they sinned in that city, the Most High then caused the city itself to become desolate, and he drove them out. Now he's saying, in the redemptive era, you have paid double for what has happened in you, and I'm telling you that your guilt has been paid. Now, here comes the insertion. A voice cries out. What voice? The voice is the voice of the Most High, the Ruach. Clear a road in the desert or in the wilderness, as Jerusalem lies desolate. Now we can go to Vayikra chapter 26 and verse 31, Isaiah chapter 1 verse 7, Jeremiah chapter 4 verse 27, and we can hear and see of how the Most High talks about what's going on in Jerusalem. Clear a road through the desert land for the returning exiles of Israel. That's what the text is about. So the text is not about this is the man Yeshayahu was talking about when he said a voice of someone crying out in the desert. The voice of the Ruach is crying out in light of the return of his people. He's the one crying out, not John the Baptist. John the Baptist ain't got nothing to do with this. Once again, what do we see? Let's see. The prophecy in Yeshayahu is once again about a desolate land, as the Spirit, the opulent Spirit, declares that it and its roads need to be cleared for the returning of Hebrew Israel from exile. There is no desolated land mentioned in the Greek text that needs to be cleared. Point number 4. The land is to be prepared for Yahweh. Point number 5. The voice is the Ruach, or the Spirit of Yah, that the land belonging to Hebrew Israel needs to be cleared because it lays desolate to this very day, requires clearing in preparation for our and their return, so it does not fit this Greek text. It is very future, not in the day this Greek text was written. It has nothing to do with Yochanan the Baptist. Point number 6. Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 26, beginning at verse number 31. I will lay waste to your cities and make your sanctuaries desolate, so as not to smell your fragrant aromas. I will desolate the land so that your enemies living in it will be astounded by it. You will be dispersed among the nations, and I will draw out the sword in pursuit after you. Your land will be desolate, and your cities a wasteland. Then, at last, the land will be paid its Sabbaths. Now, when it talks about the land will be paid its Sabbaths, one of the major reasons that Israel went into Babylonian captivity was not only because they abdicated the Torah and the Most High, but also because they refused to allow the land to rest. That's the reason why he says the land will be paid its Sabbath. 407 sevens is 490 years they were out of the land. As long as it lies desolate, and you are in lands of your enemies, the land will rest and be repaid its Shabbats. Yes, as long as it lies desolate, it will have rest and be repaid its Shabbats. Verse 35, yes, as long as it repeats itself, as long as it lies desolate, it will have rest. The rest it did not have during your Sabbath when you lived there. As for those of you who are left, now, realize that when they went into Babylonian captivity, everybody did not go. As for those of you who are left, I will fill their hearts with anxiety in the lands of their enemies. Okay, once again, he's taking them out of the land and they're going out into their enemies. The sound of a driven leaf will frighten them, so that they will flee as one flees from the sword and fall when no one is pursuing. Yes, when no one is pursuing, they will stumble over each other as if fleeing the sword. You will have no power to stand before your enemies. So now we see what's going on about this voice that's saying, I need to have the roads clear. I need to have a level highway. Why? Because I am going to bring my people back to this flourished land. Okay? So, once again, Matthew chapter 3, this is the man, it's not Jesus, that Yahweh was talking about, said, it's not a man, it's the voice of the Most High that's crying out. Matthew, where am I going here? I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 4. Where am I going? There we go. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 4. Let's read it. But he answered, the Tanakh says, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. Well, let's read their pretext and let's see what's going on. Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. Then the Spirit, led Yeshua up into the wilderness to be tempted by the adversary. Okay? Now, We've done a teaching on what this adversary is. This adversary is not a devil. Okay? Let's be clear. Let's go back to the beginning of creation. When you read in Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 1, chapter 2, the Most High tells you everything that he created. Okay? Nothing in what he created has anything to do with a devil or a hell. Not there. Did he forget something that shows up in this other document? No. When he created everything that he created, he said that what he created was good. There's no hell and there is no devil. So we have an adversary. We have a spirit that's leading Yeshua. This spirit that's leading Yeshua happens to be, guess what? His own spirit. Question to you all. Did you ever say that I have been led by the Spirit to do something? Have you? You've even said, I was led by the Spirit to come here. Okay? In your own mind, you can be your own adversary. Your adversary can be one who speaks to you in a way that causes you to do something that is error. And because of this Greek text, we want to place our error on a devil. And we want to place our salvation and redemption on a man. So, in essence, when it's good, I'm good. It came from me. When it's bad, oh, the devil made me do it. No, you're acting on the reflections and the impulses of your own mind. After Yeshua had fasted 40 days and nights, he was hungry. Now we have a tempter. We have an adversary, we have a tempter. So, if I look at this text, do I have two different spirits, an adversary and a tempter? Or are the adversary and the tempter synonymous? What you think? They're synonymous. Came and said to me, if you this is getting funny to me. Now, this man who purports to be God manifested in the flesh is asking himself, if I'm the Son of God, Yah, order these stones to become bread. But he answered, wait a minute. He's talking to himself. Right? Is he talking to himself? He answered himself. But answered that the Tanakh says, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. Let's deduce. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter number 8. And we're going to start at verse 1. And we're going to see if we can find this text. All the mitzvot I am giving you. Who's talking? Moshe is talking. Today, you are to take care to obey so that you will live, increase your numbers, enter and take possession of the land Yahweh swore about your ancestors. You are to remember everything of the way in which Yahweh led you these 40 years in the desert, humbling and testing you in order to know what was in your heart. All right, now, stop for a minute. The exercise in the wilderness served two purposes. One, I need you sequestered so that you can learn how to worship me. But it's also going to be a test for you to know what's in your heart, whether you would obey his mitzvot or not. Moshe is talking. He humbled you, allowing you to become hungry. If we go back to Matthew, the man is fasting, he's hungry, right? The text says here, he humbled you, Israel, allowing you to be hungry, and then he fed you with man, which neither you nor your ancestors had ever known, to make you understand that a person does not live on food alone, but on everything that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. Another what? Misused text. It's true, even for you and me. When we fast, what do we become? Become hungry. But we realize that the Most High has told us, you don't live by bread alone. Your life, your existence, your ability to function, your ability to have my protection doesn't come from food. It comes from every word that's come out of the mouth of Yahweh. He sustains us. And you know what else he's doing? He's educating us how to live on food. Ain't that something? He's educating us how to live by his word that keeps the body functioning, but he's also teaching us how to live by every word that proceeds out of his mouth. So once again, the text doesn't fit the narrative in Matthew chapter 4. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4 and verse 6. We'll start with verse 5. The adversary, the accuser, took him to the set apart city. That would be Jerusalem. So now, watch this now, watch this. If the adversary took him to the set apart city on the highest point of the temple, you would imagine that this man is sitting on the highest point of the city, right? That tells me that all that's going on in this text in relationship to this instance is visionary. It's visionary. You can have dreams and you can have visions of yourself being somewhere that is impossible. You follow my drift? You can have dreams and visions of being somewhere. So the text is allowing me to know that all of this in this particular chapter 4 is coming out of his mind and purporting it to be related to our text and what is being said here in our text. Have I not made the switch? I haven't. I noted something that I want to point out here. If you are the son of El. Now, the Moreh and I were commensurating in the podcast this last Wednesday, and we once again got to discussing what was going on in St. John chapter 7, I think it is, isn't it? Yes. Chapter 7. Coming from Sukkot, he sits down and he begins to teach. And they're amazed at his teachings. And they ask him about his teachings. And he says, "These words that I speak are not my own." Read the text. He says, "They're not my own. They are from the one. The one. The one. They are from the one who sent me." Moreh was quick to point out, help me to see something that I hadn't seen before. Go to Devarim chapter 6 and verse number 4 for me. And we're going to see what he has to say. Remember, these words that I'm speaking are not my own. They are from the one who sent me. Shema Yisrael. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Okay? Let's interpret. Hear, Israel, Yahweh, your Elohim, Yahweh is one. He says, the words that I speak are from the one Yahweh who sent me. What are you saying? Now, have you ever heard the expression, man of God? That's you're a man of God? Okay. Well now, if you can refer to me as a man of God, why can't I also be a son of God or El? Can I not be? Can I not be? Can you not be daughters of Yah? So now watch this. I'm going to say something. I really don't have a problem with him being a son, but I do have a problem with him claiming himself to be equal with the Father. I have a problem with that. Are you following? You're following the gist here? I don't have a problem with anybody claiming to be, I'm a son of God. Listen to the inflection. I'm not saying I'm God. I'm saying I'm a son of Yah. Is he not my father? Did he not create me? Can I be greater than him? Absolutely not. Can I be equal to him? Absolutely not. I am my father's son. And there's no way that I'm equal to him. There's no way that my name surpasses him. He has not given me a name that's greater than his name. But I carry his name. So he says in text, those that are called by my name. So Israel, his son, Exodus 4:22, Israel is my firstborn son. Israel has his name. Israel is his son. That would make me a son of Yah. But I'm not purporting myself to be equal with him. You following the drift here? You all have to be able to know how to defend who you are, what you are, and why you believe what you believe. So now, if you are the Son of God, he said, and remember, the adversary is calling him a son. He's not calling him God, he's calling him a son. Said, jump. Now, in your imagination, remember, he's at the highest point of the temple. So if you know what the temple looks like, you know the temple has a high point. um, in my mind right now, I'm visualizing uh, some movies that I've seen in the past where something and lands on the high point. Imagine me, I'm on the high point. Okay? I'm up here on this high point. And what the adversary in my mind is telling me, okay, it's telling me to commit suicide. Imagine this is the high point. It's telling me to commit suicide. But the text says, for the Tanakh says, he says, he will order his angels to be responsible for you, and they will support you with their hands so that you will not hurt your feet on stones. Uh, let's go. Let's go to Psalms 91 and let's see where they get this from. The Helium, Psalms chapter 91. And let's see. Let's just read down through it and get to it. Start with verse 1. You who what? You who live in the shelter of Elion, who spend your nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Yahweh, my refuge, my fortress, my El, in whom I trust. He will rescue you from the trap of the hunter and from the plague of calamities. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. You will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrows that flies by day, or the plagues that roams in the dark, or the scourge that wreaks havoc at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it won't come near you. Only keep your eyes open, and you will see how the wicked are punished. For you have made Yahweh the Most High, who is my refuge, your dwelling place. No disaster will happen to you, no calamity will come near you. He will order his angels to care for you and guard you wherever you go. What's that got to do with sitting on a high place? Threatening suicide? What has Psalms 91 got to do with any of that? What? Nothing. Nothing. In your mind, you are the tempter, you are the adversary. All these thoughts are coming out of your mind. You want us to believe. Come here, Moreh. My adversary and my tempter, just stand right there, looking at me in the high place. Tell me to jump. Tell me to jump.
Jump. Down.
They want us to believe that a character, a character is engaging him and instructing him to do something, and his response is to go to Psalms chapter 91, which got nothing to do with him sitting on a high place with somebody threatening him to commit suicide in his own mind. Y'all got that? Y'all got that? Jump, fool. Can you see the foolishness that exists? The prophecy has nothing to do with the situation that he's in his mind. Let's go to the next verse 7. The text goes on to say, in Matthew 7, Yeshua replied to him, but it also says, do not put Yahweh, your El, to the test. Well, what's my question here? What's my question here? Are you saying that you are him? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying here that Yeshua replied to him, but it says, do not put Yahweh, your El, to the test? So are you saying that you're... Let's play this out, okay? So in my mind, am I testing myself? I'm El. Supposedly. That's what they said I was. So now I'm testing myself? Let's go to Devarim chapter 6. We're going to pick it up a little early. What am I in? Yeah, 6:16. Devarim chapter 6. Where do I want to start at? Start at verse 10. Let's go back to verse 10. When Yahweh your El has brought you where? Into the land he swore to your ancestors Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that he would give you, cities great and prosperous, which you did not build, houses full of all sorts of good things, which you didn't fill, water cisterns dug out, which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees, which you did not plant, and you have eaten your fill. Then be careful not to forget Yahweh, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, where you lived as slaves. Where did I leave off at? You are to fear Yahweh your El, serve him, swear by his name, put a pin in this, you are not to follow other gods, chosen from the gods of the peoples around you. You are not to serve Jesus Christ from the gods which the Greeks have put around you. Because Yahweh, your El, who is here with you, okay? Now, class, is Yahweh here with us? Have you and I turned back to his ways, his Torah and his teachings? That would mean that his spirit is here with us. His spirit is with you in the house that you live in, the natural one that you live in. His spirit permeates that because you are filled with his spirit. Not a ghost. Not a Holy Ghost. You are filled with his spirit. What's his spirit? His word. The Torah, which he has given to you, permeates your existence, causes you to function every day and walk according to his ways. Make a note. I used a word. Anytime you see that word written and comes out of the mouth of the prophets, or even out of the mouth of King David, I walk in your ways, I live by your ways. He's talking about Torah. So we get back to our lesson here at this particular point. We're reading here. You are not to follow other gods, chosen from the gods of the people around you, because Yahweh your El, who is with you, is jealous Elohim. Now, is there somewhere he told us he was jealous? Well, let's start at the beginning of our relationship. Go to Exodus chapter 20. In the beginning of Israel's relationship with the Most High, when he brought them out of Mitzrayim, sequestered them in the desert, told Moshe, I want the people, in chapter 19, I want the people to go and sequester themselves, clean themselves, wash themselves, for I am going to appear on the mountain and I am going to speak to them. I'm paraphrasing it all, chapter 19. Tell them that no one is to come near the mountain or to touch it, animal or human being. Okay? 19. I am going to appear on the mountain and I'm going to speak to them these words. Then Yahweh said all these words. Words is the word davarim, words. I am Yahweh, your El, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the abode of slavery. You are to have no other gods before me, or no else before me. You are to make for yourselves, you are not to make for yourselves carved image of any kind of representation of anything in the Shemaim, this is the heavens, or in the earth beneath, or the water below, or the shoreline. You are not to bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahweh, your El, am a jealous Elohim. Now, let's put this in lay language. I'm going to go back and I'm going to paraphrase all this. Back it up to verse 1, please. Then Yahweh said all these words. I am your husband, who brought you out of the house of slavery. You are to have no other husband but me, for I am a jealous husband. Why did I do that like that? Well, in Hebraic culture, Shemot chapter 20 is what is referred to as a ketubon. If you're Hebraic or you're Jewish in thought, you know that a ketubon are the marriage vows between a man and a woman. So this right here is the ketubon. It's not the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are in chapter 34. These are the vows that the Most High is making between Hebrew Israel and himself. How do I know that? Because when he gets through speaking, Israel's going to say something. All that you have said, we will do. Let's come back to practical application. So and so, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. What you said, all that has been said, I'm saying I will do. So here in Exodus chapter 20, the Most High lays out the wedding conditions for which he is going to have a relationship with Hebrew Israel. So, getting back to here, what was I talking about? I was talking about him being jealous. Oh, yes. Let's deal with this jealousy for a minute, okay? Those of you in the house that are married, okay? If you came home and found your wife having coitus with someone who was not you, would there be a rage of jealousy that would fire up inside of you? Would there? Would there? Would there? Oh, yeah. Or vice versa. Fire would. So, it's reasonable for us to understand that when Israel has gone a whoring after other Elohim, Els, and worshiping them, it's reasonable to see that fire would boil up inside of him, right? Because when we read text, we're going to see it, and it says, and the fire blazed up within him. Okay? Two reasons. First of all, I brought you hard-headed, stiff-necked people up out of slavery. I brought you into the desert, and I taught you, and we formulated a relationship, and I taught you everything that you need to know. I provided for you shoes on your feet, clothes on your back for the 40 years before we got to the land, and none of that wore out for you. I fed you every day. I gave you fresh bread, fresh manna, that you could, that in your mind, now watch this now. I gave you fresh manna that in your mind, we're not talking about Johnson seasoning. We're not talking about that. In your mind, I'm giving you something that whatever you think in your mind, manna will taste like. Anything you put tofu with takes on the flavor that you put it with. Manna, which was, he says, well, I was that bread that fell in the wilderness for you, okay? Oh, you wanted meat to eat. I dropped for you, I dropped delivered for you quail for you to eat. I, your husband, took you by a way that was different, and yet and still we encountered enemies. I, your husband, fought for you and destroyed your enemies. Follow the text, follow the narrative. I led you through the wilderness, and we went through different regions trying to get to your land, and you encountered enemies, and I, Yahweh, I destroyed them all. I caused the fear of you to be understood even before you got there. I did that for you, your husband. And I brought you to a land that flowed with the abundance of milk and honey. What did that land have in it? That land had minerals, precious stones, divine food. I already told you I gave you cities and houses and wells and things that you didn't even have to work for yourself. And you're telling me that there is another power that you want to go worship? Wait a minute. I did all this for you, and you're telling me that you're leaving me for another L that is not even an L? Don't, don't y'all test me. Question, mothers. Question, mothers. Have you ever heard your mother say to you, boy, don't you test me? Your mother ever tell you that? Did your father ever tell you that? Boy, don't you test me. Don't, don't you put me to the test. That's what the Most High is saying to Hebrew Israel. Number one, first of all, let's not get it twisted. I am very jealous for you. Now, to understand the jealousy, we have to go to Ezekiel. I think it's chapter 12. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm going to quote it for you. If you happen to find it, you can pull it up. When I saw you, you were in the desert. Your umbilical cord had not been cut. You were there, and you were wallowing in your own blood. I came along, and I bathed you. You had no one to bathe you. I bathed you. And I covered you. Text goes on to say, and I looked, and I saw you. You were young. You were beautiful. You were in puberty. I took you. The language gets very, very poetic and very beautiful. I took you and I covered you. And you became my wife. I'm in Israel. So, you mean to tell me, well, listen, husbands, this is a conversation you're going to have with her. This is coming in. You mean to tell me that you have found another husband that's better than me? What do you think is happening next? Get out of my house. Or she's telling you, get out of my house. So the Most High is now saying to Hebrew Israel, get out of my house. What's his house? The house is Jerusalem. Get out of my house. I don't know where you're going, but you're leaving here. I am going to disperse you into the four corners of the earth, and I'm going to let you see what it's like to be without me. Since you all don't want to follow the rules of the house, and since you think that this other guy is better than me, I'm gonna let you do that. I'm gonna let you see for yourself the difference between that and me. And not only is that going to happen to you, oh, you will not just serve one other rebel guy, you will become a whore. And I'm going to call you a prostitute. And I'm going to tell you that you lifted your skirt on every hill. I'm going to talk to you just like who you are. Why? Because I'm jealous. I'll make it bad for you. Why? Because I'm jealous. Why is your ex-husband always hanging around? Every time I look around, here's your ex-husband showing up. Why is he always hanging around? I don't know. I just wish he'd go away. No. Just because I divorced you behind don't mean I still don't love you. Oh, the Most High loves Israel. Oh, yes, he does. He go, hey, girl, you ain't getting away from me that easy. Oh, and I'm going, oh, yeah, and I'm going to nag that guy that you're with. I'm going to nag him. There's your ex-husband again. Oh, yeah, I can't get him to go away. I'm not going to go away. Because I want you to experience my fury. I want you to experience my wrath. And then he says in Isaiah, he says, I once was angry at you. But when you get down in further verses of Isaiah, he says, but I'm no longer going to be angry with you. I think it's in the prophet Joel. He says, not only that, he says, but I'm going to woo you. I see you with that other guy, but I'm going to woo you. And I'm going to bring you back to me. You're still talking about don't put me to the test. So the idea of all that I've just explained to you goes on to say, I'm jealous. If you do, the anger of Yahweh your El will flare up against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the earth. Here it comes in 16. Do not put Yahweh your El to the test as you tested him in Massah testing. Verse 16 is like, okay, I'm telling you, don't test me. Don't, you don't have a clue what's in my mind that stirs up my jealousy. You don't have a clue what I will put on you if you test me. Boy, don't test me. My mother used to say that all the time. Boy, don't test me. But B, she was like a pitcher in the major league. She'd bring that strap from way back here. Don't test me. You don't have the clue the whooping I'm going to place on you. And what's the Most High saying? So now we go back to this particular text in 4 and 7 in Matthew, and we make a comparison here. That is a continuation of the first issue, sitting on the top, sitting on the brink of the bay, watching the boats go by. I'm sitting up on this high place, and my mind is telling me that he will order his angels to be responsible for you. They will support you with their hands so that you will not hurt your feet or your stones. We've already debunked that. And the story goes on. Then he replied, don't test me. Well, here's my question, dude. Are you testing yourself? I mean, come on, think about it. You claim to be the Son of God. Or you've taken it a step further. You've made yourself equal with him. Come on. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. Oh. Verse 10, Matthew chapter 10. Chapter 4, verse 10. We'll start at verse 8. Once more, the adversary took him up to the high summit. He got down. Now he's back up there again. He's dangling his feet on the high summit, on a very high mountain, shown him all the kingdoms of the world in all their glory, and said to him, all this will I give to you if you will bow down and worship me. Now we have an adversary, we have a tempter, and now we have Satan. Away with you, Satan, Yeshua told him, for the Tanakh says, worship Yahweh your El and serve him only. Okay? This particular point is taken from Devarim, chapter 6. Let's go back to chapter 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6. And verse number 13. Now we've read Deuteronomy chapter 6 down through its conclusion, its issue here, and we've already deduced that Deuteronomy chapter 6 has to do with Israel and the fact that the Most High is promising to take them somewhere and how their minds are supposed to function in relationship to him. Okay? You dug cisterns. We'll start with verse 12. Be careful not to forget Yahweh who brought you out of the land of Egypt where you were lived as slaves. You are to do what? Verse 13. You are to fear Yahweh your El, serve him, and swear by his name. They want us to believe that this came from one of the prophets. No, he's speaking from the Tanakh. So, Israel, what's your chore? Wherever you are, what are you supposed to do? Fear Yahweh, your El, serve him, and to swear by his name. In other words, make his name prominent. There's nowhere that I go and talk to people that I don't introduce them to Yahweh. I talked to a young lady yesterday, and she was telling me how much she loved God, and I go, you love God? She says, yeah. I go, which one? She says, God. I says, no. Krishna's a God. Muhammad's a God. Buddha's a God. All these nations, or all these people, continents of people, they have their God. So I have to ask you, you got to be specific with me. You worship what God? And I said, number one, let's understand something, that the Creator's name is not God. I said, no. Do you worship the Father? Yes. Does your Father have a name? God. No, that's not a name, that's a title. I said, not only is it a title, but the jokers that canonize what we call the Bible were very, very astute to leave the name of the Father out of text so that you would never know what his name was, so that the writing in Joel that says, they that call upon the name of who will be saved, they gave you Lord, so you could never ever be saved because you're calling on the wrong name. Because they removed it 68,000 times in Scripture, so you would never know its name. But if you go to the Hebrew scroll and you read in Shemot chapter 3, starting at verse 13 down, he will tell you what his name is. Guess what they don't want you to know? Why don't they want you to know his name? There is power, wonder-working power in the name of the Lord. There is power, wonder-working. We used to sing it in the church, in the name of the Lord. Well, we knew there that the Lord was supposed to be Jesus Christ. But the power is not in Jesus Christ. Joel says, they that call upon the name of Yahweh shall be saved. Why did they leave the name out? So that you would never come to salvation. Salvation is not glossolalia. You go like, what? What'd you say? What's glossolalia? Ah, it's sprung a word on you you haven't heard before. You know what anybody here know what glossolalia is? Have you ever heard it? Nobody's heard about glossolalia? Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Huh? Mixing words, which is what they call speaking in tongues. Glossolalia. Where you receive the ghost. Salvation is by only one way, and it comes to us through one vehicle. It only comes from the Most High through his Torah. By being obedient there, we are then delivered from all of our enemies once again, and we are delivered from sin. Now, you've heard this before, you know it. Okay? St. John chapter 3, I always come back to it, says that sin is a violation of the law. If you read in your Hebrew Bible, it says sin is a violation of Torah. Pull it up for me, will you? 1 John chapter 3, verse 3. I know you all know it. And everyone who has this hope in him, now I want you to, because this right here is continuing the pretext of 1 John. Forget the pretext. The pretext is garbage. It's garbage. It got nothing to do with what's going on. Everyone who has this hope in him continues purifying himself since Yahweh is pure. Everyone who keeps sinning is violating Torah. Let me state it for you out of your King James writing. Everyone who is sinning is violating the law. Capital L-A-W, not little L-A-W. Indeed, sin is violating the Torah or the law. What problem do we have? What problem? If I'm going to follow the Greek narrative, what problem do we have? Where did JC fulfill his mission? Because if we go back to Matthew chapter 1 and 2, it tells you what his mission was. He came to do what? Save his people from their sin. Sin is violating the Torah. Now, if you've been a student of that Greek text, for which those of you who've never been in Christian church are not familiar with, there is, Your Honor, no place in that document where he teaches Torah. He says, if a man wants to be saved, I shed my blood so that he could be saved. So anyone who believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live again. Our text says that every man who violates Torah, sins, must die for his own Torahlessness. That's what our text says. The one that you Christians so conveniently use when you find it necessary to have a hot topic that you want to springboard off of. You go over and you grab something over here, just like the Greek text, stay away from you, away with you, Satan. Yeshua told him, for the Tanakh says, worship Yahweh, El, and serve him only. We get back to Devarim, and he tells us the same text. He says, you are to fear Yahweh and serve him and swear by his name. They didn't even quote the text right. You see? And your text says, the Greek text says, that the whole world wandered after the beast. What beast, Rabbi Moreh? Oh, go back to Daniel and read Daniel 7. He'll tell you who all the beast nations are. He'll describe them in the terminology of an animal: the bear, the lion, the leopard, and one that was more ferocious than any other ones, which was Rome. And so the whole world wandered after Greece, which is a beast nation. So we realize that if we go back to Deuteronomy chapter 6, this and this have nothing at all to do with each other in terms of the usage of how it's being used. Let's take the last one, I think it is. Four and 15. Matthew chapter 4 and verse number 15. But let's go up to verse number 12, because we have Yochanan still in the mix here. When Yeshua heard that Yochanan had been put in prison, he returned to Galilee. But he left Nazareth and came to live in Capernaum, a lakeshore town near the boundary between Zebulun and Naphtali. Now there's an insertion. If he's talking about Yochanan the Baptist, he's saying the things that happened to him, this happened in order to fulfill what Yeshayahu the prophet has said. That's Isaiah. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 4 and verse number 15. I may want to start earlier. Chapter 4 and verse, Isaiah 4 doesn't have a 15. Oh, dummy. I want Yeshayahu 8 and 23. Oh, it was Matthew 4:15. Yes, we want to go to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse number 23. But we're going to start up a little bit. Let's go up to, where do I want to begin this? Let's go to verse 1. That's a lot of reading. That's okay. Let's go to, this is the last one I'm going to do today. Let's go to the beginning. Isaiah chapter 8, verse number 1, to get the pretext of all this. Because the connection happens in the end of the chapter. This particular chapter in verse 8 is connected to chapter number 7, where we have the verbiage of Emmanuel, El with us, that this young woman is going to bring this child into the world to prove to the king Akaz that these two smoldering issues are not going to happen. I'm going to give you a sign. So chapter 8 is a continuation of chapter 7. But it goes on, it continues on and carries us also into something that is related to Assyria and King Hezekiah. So let's read. Yahweh said to me, take a large tablet, write on it in easily readable letters. He's talking to Yeshayahu. Mahar Shalah Hashbaz, spoil hers, the praise speed along. I had it witnessed for me by reliable witnesses, Uriah the Kohanim and Zechariah, who the son of Yeverekayahu. Then I had, Isaiah says, then I had sexual relationships with my wife. She became pregnant, gave birth to the son, and Yahweh said to me, name him Mar-Shalal-Hashbaz, because before the child knows how to cry, Abba and Ima, the riches of Damascus and the spoils of Shomer will be carried off, given to the king of Asher. Here's where Asher shows up. Yahweh went on speaking and said more to me. Since the people has rejected the gently flowing waters of Shalaach and takes joy in Ritzin and in the son of Ramaliah, these are the two people that are spoken of in Isaiah chapter 7. Now Yahweh will bring up on them the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates River, that is the king of Asher and his power. These are the Assyrians. So now, because they have taken wings with these two smoldering bricks, Ritzin and Ramaliah, I'm now going to bring the Assyrians up on you. It will raise above all the channels and overflow all the banks. This is Asher. The Assyrians are now going to overpower this nation of Israel. It will sweep through Yehudah, flooding everything and passing on. It will reach even up to the neck, and its outspread wings will fill the whole expanse of the land. Yahweh is with us. Emmanuel. You may make an uproar, peoples, but you will be scattered. Listen now, he says, you may make an uproar, but because you have sided with these two smoldering nations or people, you're going to be scattered. Listen, all you from the distant lands, arm yourselves, but you will be scattered. Yes, arm yourselves, but you will be scattered. Devise a plan, but it will not come to nothing. Say anything you like, but it won't happen. Why? Because El is with us. For this is what Yahweh said to me, speaking to Yeshayahu, speaking with a strong hand, warning me not to live the way this people does. Don't regard as an alliance what this people calls an alliance. So now he's saying these two nations that they're trying to side with and bring an alliance, disregard that. Isaiah, don't you pay attention to that. Don't fear what they fear or be awestruck by it. But Yahweh Sabaoth consecrated him. Okay? Isaiah. Let him be the object of your fear and awe. He is there to be a sanctuary, but for both the house of Israel, he will be a stone to stumble over, a rock obstructing their way, a trap and a snare for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Many of them will stumble and fall, be broken, trapped, and captured. It's talking about what's going to happen through these Assyrians. Wrap up this document and confine its teaching to those I have instructed. I will wait for Yahweh, who is hiding his face from the house of Yaakov. Yes, I will look for him. Now Isaiah is speaking again. He's still speaking. Meanwhile, Isaiah says, I and my children, whom Yahweh has given me, will become for Israel signs and wonders from Yahweh of hosts, Sabaoth, living on Mount Zion. So when they tell you to consult those squeaking, squawking mediums and fortune tellers, you are to answer, shouldn't a people seek their El, their power? Must the living ask the dead? He's being very, very strategic. Must the living ask the dead for teaching and instruction? That's mediums. For they will indeed give you this unenlightened suggestion. Distressed and hungry, they will pass through the land. Because of their hunger, they will grow angry and curse by their king and by their El. But whether they look up to El or down to the earth, they will see only trouble and darkness. Why is this happening? Because they have aligned themselves with chapter 7, these two smoldering nations. So we got darkness. But there will be no more gloom for those who are now in anguish. In the past, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali were regarded lightly. But in the future, he will honor the way by the lake beyond the Jordan, Gilgal of the Goyim. So when we look at this text is about Asher, the Assyrians, and King Hezekiah. It has nothing to do with Matthew. Chapter 8 continues into chapter 9 of Isaiah. The people living in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those living in the land that lies in the shadow of death, light has dawned on them. The light that has dawned on them is King Hezekiah, who is going to be a servant of the Most High, who is going to destroy the Assyrians. So, in Matthew 4:14, as we read it, Yeshua quotes the prophet Yeshaya to make a correlation between John the Baptist and what's going on here. Does anything in Isaiah speak about anything but Hebrew Israel and the Assyrians and their deliverance? Does it speak about anything? Does it have anything to do with a man? It has to do with a nation who is besieged by Assyrians, and their besieged by the Assyrians has caused them to live in darkness, fear. Who rescues them? Chapter 9 tells us. When we read chapter 9, it's about King Hezekiah, not about anybody else. Y'all got this today? Yeah. You see, well, why don't you believe in Jesus? Oh, you don't have time for me to tell you. As the song goes, let me count the ways. And guess what? We're not through. We're not even through. As I close, if you read text, I don't call the New Testament scripture because it's not authored by the Most High. He doesn't sign off on it. So it's not scripture. One of the things that we learned in school, and that is very essential to our functioning in this world, is to be able to do reading comprehension. There are a lot of tests that you take in which they give you a statement and then they give you multiple choice answers. The reason why they do that is because they want to know if you can comprehend what you read. Reading comprehension is essential to be able to understand what we are reading. Anytime we go across the street into the New Testament and we find anything that's written in bold or it said this was written to fulfill something, go back to what they're saying is supposed to be fulfilled. Read the pretext, read the protest, and then ask yourself, does this fit? I'm going to use the words of Johnny Cochran in the trial of O.J. Simpson. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Nothing in the New Testament fits. Nothing over there fits what is written in the scriptures. Even though they quote and say to us in Timothy that the word, it just got a brain freeze. Take me to Timothy. You know where it is, where I want to go. First or Second Timothy, which one is it? Let's go there. Is Yah breathed and valuable for truth and teaching correction? You know which one I want. Is it second or first? I forget. I don't want Thessalonians. I want Timothy. Yeah, 2 Timothy 3:16. Here's what they say. Here's what they say. They say this, but they don't believe this. Isn't that interesting? They say it, but don't believe it. All scripture. Okay? Now, understand something. When this is being written, okay, none of this exists. Okay? None of this exists when this is written. New Testament doesn't exist when this is written. But they say, all scripture is Yah breathed and is valuable for teaching the truth, convicting of sin, correcting faults, training in right living. Thus, anyone who belongs to Yah may be fully equipped for every good work. That's true. That's true. So what they've done is they've lifted thought, prose, and proverbs out of our text, inserted it into theirs, mesmerize you into believing a lie and going away from the truth. Can you be delivered? Can you be saved by any other name than the name of Yahweh? When he says in his text that there is nobody who can deliver you or save you out of my hand. Nobody. So if nobody can save you out of his hand, don't you think it's important to know the name of the one who can deliver you when you're in trouble? But we read the Psalms already, and we've read them over and over again. Don't be afraid. You who live under the shadow of the Most High, you have nothing to fear. My eyes are upon you. I watch over you day and night. I am your protector. Listen to him talk to Abraham. Abraham, stop what you're doing and realize I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. Israel, who's Abraham? He's a Hebrew. It makes him Israel. Israel comes out of him. So Israel, stop what you're doing. Realize I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. I'm done for today. Oh, and guess what? We're not even finished debunking the bold print. I'm going to have to work my way all the way through that document, just pull it all out and debunk it. You know why? I want you all to know that when you sit down at the table and somebody asks you why you don't believe in JC, I want you to be able to give them a reasonable answer that explains why. Now, understand something. That doesn't mean because you tell them they're going to receive it. Because he also says about Israel in exile, I have given to them a blind stupor so that they cannot see. Today may not be their day of seeing. But my job is to do what? Plant the seed and allow the Most High. He says that my word, Isaiah, shall do what? Shall not go forth and not return to me void. It will accomplish the purpose for which I have sent it. Who's true? Let Yah be true, and every let Yah be true, and every man a liar. That's what he said. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying what he said. Unfortunately, that's what he said. I only say those things. I hear my father say, liar. You're a liar. When you turn around and say, it's been said, but I say, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Didn't you say it? It's been said, but I say, oh, you're operating as a who can lie and change his mind. Y'all got it? Then let's stand as I bless you and as we finish for today. Yebarakaka, Yahweh v'yishmaraka, Ya'er Yahweh panav aleka, V'kanuka, Yasai Yahweh panav aleka, V'yasham laka shalom. May Yahweh bless you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you and show you favor. I'm sorry, you all. I know I get here every week and I stop. And I stop for one reason. I want you to understand that favor is not just given out willy-nilly. You just don't get favor because I'm highly favored of God. No, you're not. You don't even know who he is. Favor. Favor. How many in here have experienced Yahweh's favor? Did he open a door for you that wasn't open before? Did he make a way that wasn't a way? I'll give you favor. And may Yahweh lift up his face towards you, and as he looks at you, gives you peace. Now watch this. How many of you live in peace? I'm not surrounded by fear. I'm not frightened or terrorized by the noise that I hear because I have peace. Where is the peace? In my soul. May he lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Shalom.